Hi, right, for this video, what I want to try and to do is actually make some larger quantity of paint, because I'm going to need that for my final major project, my final piece. Ideally, I'd love to have ground down absolutely everything and found pieces of stone, but the practicalities of that and timescale will be probably months, if not years, to actually achieve the quantity I need. So I've actually bought some raw pigment. It's been processed to a degree. As you can see in here, it's this beautiful deep red, but as you can see, it's got these still very quite large lumps on it, so it does need some refining down. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get away with that just through using the muller. And then I'm going to add that, this is again an experiment, to some commercially bought paint extender effectively. I've actually been talking with Dulux with regards to this, and I've acquired some of their, if you like, what's called their base paint. This is a base material that they produce, which they add pigments to. They normally add it in you'll see it in sort of one of the mixing shops where you can actually get any colour mixed to whatever one you want, and it's just different amounts of pigment that they add. But I'm actually going to be using my own raw pigment as an experiment to see if I can get hopefully a quantity of paint that allow me to go forward for this final major project. Okay, so I'll crack on. So I'm just adding straight from the container here. I'm still experimenting very much in terms of sort of quantities that on these, so I'm actually going to try. This might be too much. In fact, I suspect it will be, because I'm only going to try and get a paint pot about that size. So I think that those containers are about 200 mil, something like that. So anyway, well, as I say, it's an experiment. So in the first place, I'm going to actually bind it with water though, to start mixing it, because it is a water-based paint. That is quite thick, but the dryness of the pigment will soak up some of that water, so it's trying to get that balance. So what I'll do, just using the pipette, this is just some tap water, just start to introduce that. I think it'll take quite a bit because I've used a lot of pigment. Right, I'll just start using the palette knife, just to start incorporating it from the outside to the in. As you can see, it soaks up that water incredibly fast. It's far too thick, so I'll need quite a bit more water in there. In fact, I'll actually pour a little bit in, see if I can. Right, let's just try that now. Each time I do this, I'm learning a little bit more about sort of quantities, so this is absolutely great. And I just love this sort of process where you're actually seeing this dry mineral source being turned into basically semi-liquid. You start seeing obviously a completely different play of light off the surfaces as well, because you're going from a very matte finish, matte appearance of the dry pigment, to this glossy, although it's only glossy at this stage. It's water based, so it will return to being a matte paint. It is a matte paint base I've used. As you can see, you can probably hopefully pick up that there are still some. I can feel it's not that gritty because you can hear it. It's quite smooth, and you know those granules are actually of the raw pigments are breaking down very quickly into smaller ones, and you're getting this more silky feeling. That's probably enough with the palette knife for now. So I'll move over to using the muller. I don't want to waste any, try not to. Just checking you can actually see there. Just zoom in a little bit. It actually forms a seal. I think that's when you start to know that it's actually broken down very well, is that you get an airtight seal between, caused by the what effectively is a type of paint now, I'll call it, and the glass of the plate and your muller, and it will actually stick, and you can just hear grinding a little bit. I'm going to lift it off, move it back to the centre. This has broke down incredibly quickly. It must be a very soft original iron oxide, this, or it's been processed very well in terms, as I say, this is some board. You can hear a little bit of the grit there then. Yeah, you can hear a bit of grit there. And then you can, that lovely sound as it gradually goes, and that's it being ground down to what I consider. Now, I'm not grinding this to the extent where what I'd call a fine artist, perhaps, you know, a Renaissance painter who's wanted to make oil paints and build up lots of layers, where the particle fineness would be, I should imagine, very important, because you'd want that, you don't want those visible in your paint, granules. But for what I'm looking to achieve at the end, I don't need that, you know, that absolute. I mean, you could go on with this process of mulling for hours and hours and hours, but there's only a certain point of benefits you're getting back in return. So I can still hear a few grits there. I'll keep going. So I'm getting a reasonable amount of this liquid pigment, I'd call it. It's not paint particularly at the moment, or it has that quality. It can be used straight like this, but I'm looking to use an extender, and I'm hoping that although the extender which I've got over here in this tub, as you can see, it's got almost a white appearance, that it's not the same as mixing a load of white paint with pigment, where the more white you have, the lighter colour. I mean, there will be an element of that, but as I say, it's an experiment, and I'm hoping it will whiten a little bit, but I'm hoping that it will retain a good degree of saturation. I mean, this is just, it's hard to explain how satisfying this is, and just what a beautifully solid colour you're getting there. And hopefully that comes out on the video. Right, now that's absolutely stuck, so I'm going, that's a good sign that we're getting there. So I'm going to scrape off the last bottom of that, and then I'm just going to collect it and start mixing it with the extender or base paint. So I'm going to add this in and just basically mix it. Use the spatula. Hopefully you can see that. seems to pick up quite well. You're just using a spatula on the glass plate. You'll never get all of it, because the whole purpose of this plate is that it has got a texture to it, because that's what helps with the muller to actually grind down the pigments. So getting there now. Obviously, if I can sort of come back, because I've got that raw pigment, a reasonable supply of that. If I need to add any more, if I don't think it's holding up in the extender to the extent I want it to, I could always come back and go through this process again and just add more pigment, going through the muller. This one's been quite a quick process, as I say, because it's cut out the grinding stage. Well, and the finding of the materials in the first place. Then the grinding stage with the mortar and pestle, which is probably the longest part. Right, I think I've got as much as I'm going to the last scrape across, and we'll get on to some mixing. Okay, I'm just going to mix this with the actual spoon. Hopefully you can see that. Let's move this across, but as you can see, although it looked like a base white, that pigment does seem to be holding up reasonably well in there. I'll leave the plate underneath, so we've got a contrast between its I have got a little electric mixer. It's actually a coffee frother up rubber. It's a little whisk on the end, which I might use afterwards, just because you want to make sure it's fully incorporated and we want that consistency. But if you look at that now, I'm really pleased with that. It's hard to show on this with the light here, but the pigment looks to have held up incredibly well in there. There might be a slight lightening, but hardly noticeable at all, and that's only using just a fairly small amount of the pigment. Okay, what I should have done is actually get a piece of white paper. I'll get a piece of brown. There's a bit of card there, just see what it actually paints like. Okay, so I'm just using a soft brush there that I have on the side, and a bit of spare cardboard. I try to save any sort of packaging that comes. I find that's just on these throwaway things. Let's just have a little paint with that. You're obviously not going to be able to see it fully dry. I don't want to leave the video a video of literally paint drying, but hopefully there you start to get a reasonable idea that, you know, that is holding up quite well. If you see that against the raw pigments on the plate, this beautiful dark red, well, reddish orange colour, that I think that has held up quite well. And just looking at how it's settling, if you like, on the tester, I'll post a photograph of afterwards on the OneNote, just to show how that looks when it's dry. But overall, I'm very pleased with that. That's now, I've got sealable top. I've got about 250 ml, I would say, of paint there made, which I can use, and I'll move forward with some confidence into what I want to do in terms of developing a larger scale final piece. Okay, thanks very much. Another experiment completed.